motherfuckers are always trying to ice skate uphill.
Hello, and welcome back to Common Sense and the Devil's Advocate. I'm here, as always, with my dear sweet friend Michael. Mike, how is everything?
Hello. Good, good. Ohio's doing, we're calling for snow next week. So yeah, it's gotta be sexy.
I would say that that's ridiculous because I was sweating today down here, but they are saying that next week in Florida, we may get the earliest freeze in over 100 years. So I'm not surprised if you get snow. There's some
Yeah.
weird cold front coming through. Very, very odd. So, Mike, I brought in a dear special guest this week. I'd like to introduce you to my friend Steve, who is a massive connoisseur of everything in the world. Fine about
Thanks,
all that.
Steve.
Mike is a very knowledgeable person, or Steve is a very knowledgeable person.
I was gonna say,
Um,
I wouldn't go that far as I go.
yeah,
I don't
I
I
know
don't
you.
know
I know
about
you
all
long
that.
enough. I know you well enough to know that's not true. But in the recent memory of dear Ozzy, we're gonna do a musical show tonight, which is part of the reason why I invited Steve to join us, because not only does Steve have the greatest collection of guitars I've ever seen that he loves to play in a way that we can all hear in the street, lovely. Steve also has amazing stories of music that he has encountered over the years. He was able to
Imagine.
grow up. Say again?
I can imagine.
Yeah, he grew up in an area where it seems the bands were plentiful when they were coming through, and he's got some amazing stories. So, with that in mind, this is what we're going to talk about tonight. All right? We're going to go through three different mini music topics. And we're going to start off with, what was your first concert you ever saw?
Very first.
First.
Okay, so, well, I don't wanna make this too complicated, but that is how you define the first. So I'll give you the short version. When I was just getting ready to turn 5 years old, I remember watching news footage with my mom and dad of the Woodstock Music Festival, 1969, and I was fascinated that all of these acts had came there and all the people were there, and, so my parents at that point figured out that I liked music. So, back in the early '70s, at a Cincinnati Reds game, in between a doubleheader, they would often have music groups, and I remember vividly, we got to see the Beach Boys with Brian Wilson, which was very rare. He wasn't much at that time, but he would sporadically do shows, and my mom making the comment that Brian was playing with them
Hmm.
because she loved them. I remember that show. I remember going to state fairs and seeing bands that were either on their way up or the way down
Yep.
in
Yep.
their careers. Uh, we saw Diana Ross, we saw Gladys Knight, and it's band from the early '70s called Bo Donaldson and the Haywoods. They had one hit wonder group, Billy Don't Be a Hero. But as far as what you and I would probably call what's my first real concert was April of 1977. I went to go see Led Zeppelin the second night they played at Riverfront Coliseum at age 12. So that's probably
I got
that's
goosebumps.
probably it.
Wow.
That's at 12. That's
Yeah.
amazing. Let's dig into that for a minute. But Mike, what do you got? If you were to remember.
I was gonna say, like, as far as like first concert, as far as a fair, it was Loretta Lynn, the old coal miner's daughter. First big concert. Wow. I don't even know. I think it was like a festival, some kind of radio station festival at Blossom Music Center up here. I really don't headliners just dude, this is really a tough one for me. You're gonna have
They
to
weren't
circle.
memorable, that's for sure.
Well, I mean but that's the problem with festivals is 30 years ago, and you got five mainliner bands and about 50 sideline bands. So it's like, when did I see them then, or did I see them? So yeah, first concert, I would just have to say the first memorable concert, even though it was a small venue, would have to be Loretta Lynn because I remember Coal Miner's Daughter came out when we were younger, that movie, and then yeah, seeing her, it was kind of like cool putting that together. But yeah, and really uneventful. But yeah, that's all Loretta Lynn. I can brag about that.
Yeah,
Cheers.
that's a
What you
big
got,
show.
Joe?
your name. So I'm gonna say the first one that I can fully truly remember, and I'd go with like without any family involved, taking me to it was again at where you were just talking about at Blossom, and it was Bon Jovi for that was it the original Slippery When Wet album, or the
Hmm.
New Jersey album that came out, the very first one, and I remember that one very distinctly because we actually met up with a good friend of ours and her mother, and it was definitely the first time I ever smoked a joint with another parent.
And how old were you at
Uh,
this?
Probably 16. I think I drove. I don't remember. If I didn't drive, one of my friends did. So we're talking 15, 16 would be my guess.
Wow.
Yeah, that would be my guess. I mean, I didn't smoke a joint. What am I talking about?
Who, me?
Yeah, no,
Me?
no,
It looked like
What?
me.
it was fake. It was fake. I swear, I
Doppelganger.
swear.
Yeah.
But I do remember I couldn't tell you who the opening band was or any other things, but I do remember having a blast seeing it. So before we move in too much to the next topic, because I know these stories are gonna start getting longer and longer when people's memories start working.
Oh, sure, yeah. Oh, yeah.
So I'm just curious, Steve, because I mean, like Zeppelin is, I mean, that's epic. At 12, I mean, did you really like? Were you able to soak in how how amazing that band was?
Yeah,
Like,
it's kind of a cool story. I had a family member win tickets on the radio. My sister didn't want to go. She was working. He's over at the house, kind of upset that he's going to miss Zeppelin that he just won the tickets on the radio for. And I said, "Well, take me." And he said, "Well, you don't even know who Led Zeppelin is." And I said, "Yeah, I do. And I'm listening to radio all the time at that age." And he said, "Well, I'll tell you what. Name me two Led Zeppelin songs, and I'll take you." So I didn't know the names of them, so I start singing them, and I'm going, "You want a whole lot of love?" And he goes, "Okay, that's one." And he said, "Name me another one." I said, "Coming from the land of the ice, so snow from the," he says, "Get in the car." So
nice.
we get in the car and drive down there listening to Gary Wright. T-shirts were $5. I didn't have $5, but he did, and he bought himself a T-shirt, which he later gave me. So I have the shirt and the ticket stub from the show still to this day.
Nice.
Um, so that was cool. Yeah.
That is awesome.
What car did he drive?
68 Camaro Super Sport convertible
Ooh,
with
Oh,
true candy apple red, black leather, not vinyl seats. It had a factory 8-track, and we listened to Gary Wright Dreamweaver all the way down with the top down. And this was in late April in Ohio, so I was freezing my ass off. But um, it was a good time.
I love it. What the two of the things you talked about, we're gonna come back to. I'm gonna circle back to them in a bit. We're gonna talk about the t-shirts and ticket stubs, but I want to
Okay.
come back to them first. All right. So, all right, that was first concert, most memorable, and it can't be the same one. I don't care. Pick a different one.
Um, Only because at the time I felt like I had dodged a bullet with my parents. I had would hang out with my friends Bill and Doug, and I would go to their house and be there for hours, and my folks knew them. So I'm over there, and somehow one of the two of them had tickets to go see The Who, and they said, "Do you wanna go see The Who?" And I said, "Yeah, let's go." Not thinking about the ramifications of all this, right? So we get in the car, I think Doug drove. We get down there, he was a little older than me, I was, I think, 15 at the time. We go down to Cincinnati, I think it was December 3rd or something, freezing cold. Everybody was kinda huddled together trying to keep warm. I get up next to the building to avoid anybody that's from Cincinnati. The venue is right there on the river, and
oh yeah.
Cincinnati winter, it's just horribly cold. So I'm trying to lean against the building and keep out of the wind. And we heard music and people start screaming and cursing, they're playing and you're making us miss the show and this and this. And so this lady looks at her watch and shrugs her shoulders like, okay, whatever. They open the door and I'm one of the very first people in. I go in, I go immediately around the corner and the crowd just surges by me. And that was the infamous 11 people dying at the Cincinnati show. We had no
Wow.
idea. I got home. I had the concert T-shirt in my hand. My father had just gone to work. And my mom is laying in bed watching the evening news, and, they're showing the police cars and the ambulances and all this, and I said, "What's going on, Mom?" She said, "Oh, 11 people died at this rock concert, some group called The Who." And I'm like, "What?" I'm looking at it. And she says, "So where were you tonight?" And I didn't lie. I just bent the truth. And I said, "Well, I was with Doug and Bill just listening to some music." "Well, good night, Mom." And
Oh my God.
I just walked out in my room and hid the shirt. I didn't wear it for years because I didn't want her to find the damn thing. I would have been grounded for life. But yeah, that's probably the most memorable.
That was gonna be my next question is how long before you cop to the truth?
I never did tell her. My mom and
Oh,
dad are both dead, and she's
hold on.
probably cursing me from heaven right
Right
now
now?
that I never did tell her. So,
Oh, that's great. That's great. You got one in mind, Mike? Or you want me to move on with this?
No, no, no. I definitely have one in mind. It actually involves you. So
That's
was
fun.
the it was the summer of '97, and was it the greatest concert? I think so for me personally. Musically, I would say musically most memorable would be yes, but as far as the greatest concert experience I ever had was '97, August, Rage Against the Machine. You had
mm,
called me to see if I wanted to go, but
Fuck
I'd
you.
already bought tickets for me and my other friend because it was his birthday present from me. So him and I went to Rage Against the Machine together. I ended up getting knocked out at I forget who opened for him. I know Wu-Tang opened for him that day. And I forget what the other fill-in band was, but I got knocked the frick out. I got pushed in a mosh pit, slammed my skull against the back of some redhead guy's head that I worked with because I was working with Little Tykes at the time. And I got knocked out. It was my friend Dennis, the guy I worked with. They pushed me in the back of some guy's head, knocked out, woke up on the side of the hill. They got me some water. I asked Dennis, I'm like, dude, am I bleeding? He's like, no, but you're pretty messed up. I said, all right, good. So we got up before Rage went on. We were able to sneak into, we had a lot of seats. So we were able to sneak into the pavilion, which, if you had any kind of skill, or even minimal, you were able to do. So we snuck into the pavilion, and the left side of my face was totally smashed in, all bruised up and everything. And I ended up dancing to Rage Against the Machine with me and a friend and two ladies that were just there having a good time, and we just danced around to Killing in the Name of and all the other shows. I mean, that was the most memorable musically. I don't remember much. I remember dancing a lot, and I couldn't feel the left side of my head. So
So
that's my most memorable right there.
yeah, they put on a great show too.
yeah, so that
Yeah.
that concert he's talking about, it was an RA in college when that happened. And
There
a
you go.
kid that was moving in was like, "Hey, I have an extra ticket to Rage Against the Machine. You want to go?" He was trying to, try to suck up to the RA so he could, not get his
Not get
his
busted.
beer busted and all that kind of shit, right? And this is our boy Chris. And
No way!
I couldn't get off work to go. I think something happened. I couldn't go. And then like a week later, he pulls out the ticket stub and he's like, it's a good thing you couldn't go because all I had was an extra parking pass. So I would have been like trying to buy a scalp ticket the last minute on a, you know, broke ass college student's budget. I would have been screwed.
Did you get to see them when they played Lollapalooza?
No, I did not.
Yeah,
I
that was a
did
great
not.
show too.
I did not. So Lollapalooza is definitely up on my list of one of the ones that is memorable for me. I saw when that was Beastie Boys, Pumpkins, all set.
Was
I
that
was
93?
I was interviewing like looking at colleges and they were playing. It was down in Ohio State area when I saw that one. One of the first Lollapaloozas. So for me, I have a weird one with most memorable, honestly, because there's a few out there that really hit pretty well for me. None are as epic as The Who or Led Zeppelin.
No.
But I mean, I think one of the ones that sits at the top of my memorable is just because of who I was with. It was Guns N' Roses, which, like as you know, has always been one of my favorite bands ever since childhood. Because
Great show.
I'm a kid of the '80s, and it was literally right when they got back together, the main group.
Yeah.
And the biggest reason that it really stuck with me is because it was also my daughter's first concert.
Oh,
So, 'cause I have a picture of her, and I think my brother was actually with us also, which is even better. It was up in DC with headphones on, like, so she was, so she had
yeah.
earmuffs.
That's great.
And she still listens to him this day. And I can remember
Right.
like the music's going on and it's loud. I mean, it was an indoor concert, so you know how painful those can get. And she would take the headphones every now and then and just take them off her ear. And I can remember her yelling to me, "How can you understand what they're saying? It's so loud." And then she was like, 8 and maybe, I don't even know. She was very young. So that was
Joe, you reminded me, I don't mean to digress, but you saying that, taking your kids. My oldest son, Franklin, I think he was around 9 or 10, and I had taken him to a Tom Petty show, and I saw Petty every tour from Damn the Torpedoes until he died. I saw every tour. But anyway, I took him to the show, and he had a Who concert T-shirt on, and we were right against the wall, and Petty's walking back and forth, doing his show, and he keeps pointing at it and gives it a thumbs up. So after the song, he comes over and lift him up onto the edge of the stage, and he said, "Hey, what's your name?" And he says, "Frank." He said, "Hey, everybody." He said, "I just want you to know Frank is the coolest kid at this show."
some.
I thought that was pretty cool, that Petty did that.
Did you know he lived down here?
Yeah,
Yeah,
he's a local
Same,
boy.
yeah. I mean, was unfortunately. Well, God, I wish I would have run into him.
There's a book out called Jacksonville and the Roots of Southern Rock that I would recommend to anyone. It was fascinating to me how many bands, everyone from Limp Bizkit to Ray Charles, the Allman Brothers, Tom Petty, Blackfoot, Molly Hatchet, 38 Special, Skinner, you name it.
Crazy.
There's so many bands from right here in this area. It's just a hotbed of music.
But we don't get all the good shows. That's the worst part.
I know. I don't what
No one
like
comes
what's up
here.
with that? I don't understand it, but yeah, you're
Yeah.
right.
So I had another one that really stood out for me. I mean, I've been to some that I've just loved and they're great. I mean, like I just saw Nine Inch Nails. They've been on my bucket list, and you know, whatever. I don't
Well,
know
they're
how.
coming back.
And I saw him in Tampa, and now I'm gonna see him now in February
Yeah,
up in
they're
Jacksonville.
coming back.
And I mean, and he's older, and
Yeah.
it sounded like I've never the clarity because he's a technophile,
Oh.
so it's dialed in. It's amazing how well it sounds. That was phenomenal. But I remember once we were at it was like early college years, the mid '90s, Mike, and we're up
Yeah.
at the Cleveland, the Agora, I think it was, or one of those places up in Cleveland, small venue, and a buddy of mine had really got me into 311, and it was when they
I
just came out.
remember this.
It was like the second or third album, I think. It was before the 311 album, and we go up to this show. We'd already seen them a few times, and for some reason they loved Cleveland, so they came back constantly.
Oh,
So,
The heart of rock and roll right there.
yeah, I think they were actually dating girls from Cleveland too, somebody had said. So they were running through to run it through while they were in town. So we go to this show, and we got there nice and early, and we had decent seats and all that. And
Yeah,
so we
we
get
were
there,
up
and
on the balcony area.
yeah, I was. And the opening band started, and the place is empty. Like it's just empty. So we're like, we're gonna go. I mean, we literally could walk right up to the stage. So 2 feet from the opening band, right? And we're like, man, this chick is hot. This band's gonna blow up. It was no doubt.
Oh, really?
So it was within like a year before that they just exploded, but no one knew who the hell they were. So
Wow.
we're like, I could literally have like spit on Gwen Stefani. It was so close, We're like, it was an epic show, and they're one of the bands I've seen them like 5 times at least. And
I don't know about you, Michael. I mean, I can think of other bodily fluids I might want to put on Gwen Stefani, but
I was
spitting's
trying to
not
be,
one of
well, I'm
them.
just saying how close I
I'm
was.
just saying.
I think in my teens, I could have probably hit it with that too. Closeness. But yeah. What
Hey, it
this
wasn't
long.
it wasn't me or you, Joe. It wasn't me or you. We're clean.
He means sweat, right? Mike sweat, right? He's speaking sweat. Yeah.
I totally sweat.
But yeah, but they're a
Yeah,
band.
what are you talking about?
They're a band that sounds like they're recording, like right there. It's amazing how well they dial it all in. So that was pretty cool seeing a band that had like you were talking about seeing them at a fair where they're still like
coming up.
coming up, and then they really blow up and bigger than who they're opening for. That was pretty epic. I think the only thing that would ever close to top that was you ever seen Primus? Les Claypool with a upright glass.
Yep. One.
The man is so talented. It is, yeah. That was on the Cleveland, like right there on the river. I forget what venue that was, but outdoors in the summer. That was a phenomenal show. I'd always loved him, but
I missed that show. on
Yeah,
those.
the man he's an artist.
You ever see Prodigy? That's another great live show.
Did that guy die? I think I actually did see them once
God,
though,
that's a
but
long time ago.
yeah, but there's so many good ones out there,
I
and
know.
so many fun ones out there. So as we're diverging right into some different bands when you say like Prodigy and all that. So let's go. I got one. Give us one or two bands you've seen that people would not have expected you to say you saw and enjoyed. You can't be like, I
Oh,
saw this
wow.
band that was so bad. You're like, what's the left field? All right, and I'll start it off for you, Steve. I'm gonna give you how far left field we're gonna go. All right.
Okay.
So I got two good ones. First one is again around the same time, Mike, when we're in the 90s. Somebody came up with a whole bunch of free tickets to a concert at Blossom yet again. It's middle of summer. I think I was summer RAing just to find some work and do whatever. These were tickets to Culture Club
Okay.
and Boy George, right? Listen, massively talented. You kind of grew up with it. Would I spend
Oh
money to
yeah.
go see Boy George? I probably wouldn't. But you hand a bunch of us free tickets and we're going. And the best thing about this is one, they put on an amazing show, sounded phenomenal. But I remember one of the people that was with us was this other guy named Steve, funny enough, who looked like he should be a defensive lineman for any professional football team. The dude is huge. He was like 6'20". I don't know how tall. Had a really deep voice like this. And I can remember like this guy on the grassy knoll at Blossom just dancing around like a little girl to Karma Chameleon. And it was like,
Wow.
I was just here because again, songs you grew up with, right? You're like, once they grab you, you're in, you can't not.
You hit a point there. It's now people listen, they cross musical boundaries
Yep.
and people listen to anything. But in the 80s, everything was so stereotyped. The metalheads never listened to country, and the country people wouldn't listen to rap. And, now everything's all crossed. But I remember, I don't remember exactly what year it was, but a friend of mine wanted to go see Prince on the 1999 tour.
That's everyone in the world.
And well, okay, so
Yeah,
where
I wanted to
this
be
is
there.
this will sound terrible, but it was just the truth of where I grew up. It's like the white rednecks that I grew up with didn't listen to that, right?
Yeah.
But I went, and I have to tell you, I was probably one of five white people in the crowd at that time, but it was an incredible show, and I got to see Prince probably 3 or 4 other times after that tour, and he was incredible every time I ever saw him play. Amazing artist. But, that's one I just didn't expect to go to because of, like I said, where I grew up, but it was just amazingly good. I was very grateful that I got to go to that.
That's a nice surprise.
Yeah, it was.
I was grateful I saw a Super Bowl show.
Yeah.
What pick one out there. What you got, Mike? Bring one up. Bring one up for us.
Well, it's kind of an odd story. One of my brothers, got my wife like front row tickets to a concert at Blossom for Pentatonics. Do we all know who Pentatonics is? So, okay. Pentatonics is an a cappella group that do a lot of like mashups and Christmas music and stuff like that. I'm not a fan. They do sing beautifully together in a cappella. I give them props, but they are no band to see live. But my wife had tickets solo, one ticket, front row at Blossom to go see this group that she adored. You have fun with that. But then she bought my son and I tickets to go see this show. And I was like,
Triple.
boy, great, can't wait. Pentatonics, Blossom, music mashups, woohoo. So, anywho, we get there, and there's a couple of local artists. If you haven't heard him, seeing him live or listening to his music on just regular headphones doesn't really do him justice. But the live show he put on, his name is Callum Scott. He opened up for them, and that guy, he just had a single pianist and him on vocals, and that was it. And it was probably the most impressive show I've seen a cappella ever that some artist did. So Colin Scott, he's a big name in certain circles, but look him up. He's worth a listen. a beautiful singer, beautiful music, and him live actually impressed me. Pentatonics, I did not enjoy. I will never admit it to enjoy it, and I never will effing enjoy it ever.
But do you
Ever. I
really
even told my wife,
Try
she
it
ever
though.
pulls me into that live show again, it's like, no, I'm never going on a date night with her ever again. No, they were
yeah.
terrible live.
Now another one that I saw that is it's not a shocker one, but it's one if you know the age group and the eclectic mix that I listened to. It was also one of the best shows I've ever been to was Neil Diamond.
Oh, really?
And me and my wife were I mean, we were always fans, and it was one of those things to where we had the chance and we're like, we gotta go before he's either A, dead or, B, doesn't tour anymore. And we're talking this was probably easily 10 years ago. Phenomenal show. And one, I think he's still, then in his 70s, and you're like, wow, this guy's got an amazing amount of energy. And he tells stories like in between his songs, so
Yeah.
he gives you the background. And I knew he had a big catalog of music, but if you know this catalog of what he also wrote and decided to not record for himself, it just like almost
Insane.
everything the Monkees ever recorded was supposed to be a Neil Diamond album, and
Yeah.
he didn't. It was
Yeah.
like I didn't have the
He wrote
sound.
a lot of stuff for the Monkees.
Yeah, but he heard them as like, no, these guys are perfect. So like he's doing, some of the songs that you're used to the Monkees doing, and you're like, it's just as good. He had, his overall. I mean, he's a showman. It was really cool to see.
I had a friend, you talking about going to something like that. I had a friend of mine, his father was a colonel in the Air Force, and he grew up his dad listened to big band music, like, that's just what he was into. So Terry grew up listening to big band music. So he wanted to go see Frank Sinatra,
Cool.
and no one would go, and he knew I loved music. He said, "You wanna go see Sinatra?" And I said, "Yeah, sure, Terry, I'll go see anybody." And I got to see Frank Sinatra in 1990, Riverbend Music Center. He had Don Rickles opening up,
Oh,
a comedy act, and Pia Zadora opened up for Don.
oh,
Wow.
That was an
Chiquita.
incredible show, and then I had another friend, we went and saw Tony Bennett. I saw Tony Bennett, I saw Pearl Bailey's second to last show before she died. That was a great show. But I just think of the wider range of so I've seen everything from Tony Bennett to Black Sabbath, Sinatra to Zeppelin to Sonic Youth, Jesus and Mary Chain to all that stuff. But uh,
That's why I brought him in.
any music that would come anywhere near me, I wanted to go. Just anything, country, so all the country people. My wife's into that. So
I actually saw Reba McEntire with my wife and friend of hers when she toured with Kelly Clarkson.
there you go.
And
You
never a huge
can't
fan.
pass up Reba.
Yeah, I mean Clarkson's got a great voice, so she hits it out of the park. But
Yeah,
yeah, I'm like, can't pass up Reba. She's
you
a
can't
redhead that
pass
can
up Reba.
see that,
Dude, that's like
and it was
passing up Willie Nelson. You just don't do it. You don't do it.
Well, yeah,
who
we
was
were
just down here.
we were working. I was working at an amusement park in Cincinnati called Kings Island, and they had
The Beast.
the beach. Yeah, they had a place called Timberwolf that would have. I don't know if they're still having music there or not. I haven't lived there in a while, but anyway, Tina Turner was playing there, and we were working, and we went backstage, and Tina comes out of her trailer, and we're all like, "Oh, here's Tina Turner." So we started talking to Tina, and y'all coming to the show tonight? She was just an absolute sweetheart. Uh,
Oh, going to the show tonight. Look at my
we
dates.
went. She was wearing a white leather mini skirt and a white leather vest with fringe on it, looking great. Legs a mile long. Yeah, she was looking good. But yeah, a lot of shows like that just fell into, and I got to meet a lot of people. I met the Who, I met the Kinks, I met Grace Slick.
Kurt Cobain.
I drank a beer with Kurt at
Oh, wow.
Murphy's Pub. We talked about music gear. He wasn't anybody famous at the time. I met the Jesus Mary Chain. I met Michael Hutchins of NXS. I was at a Broadway play. In the seat next to me was Barbara Streisand, and in the seat in front of me was David Bowie and Iman.
He's
So I got to talk to all of them. Yeah, that was cool. I've been very blessed of stuff I've fell into.
Were you able ever to see David Bowie during his Ziggy Stardust days?
No, I never saw so I got to see Lou Reed live. I got to see Iggy Pop several times live. I got to meet Bowie, but I never saw David live. I never did see Bowie live. He was standing in the it was the Who on Broadway, 1993, St. James Theater in New York. And I think it was on 48th Street. Anyway, they had an intermission, and I got up, and Iman was talking to someone in the lobby during the intermission, and Bowie was kind of just standing there. And I walked up to him and I said, "Mr. Bowie?" And he looked at me and I said, "I apologize for disturbing you. I just wanted to take this once in a lifetime opportunity to tell you how much I have always admired you and your work, and I just wanted to say thank you." And he got the biggest smile on his face and put his hands together and bowed his head, and he said, "Thank you." And I said, "And I hope you have a wonderful evening." And he said, "You as well." And that's all I said to him. I just really didn't want to bother the man.
And
But
that's all any celebrity would love to hear, other than
Right?
"Give me a selfie, give me an autograph."
yeah, no, I didn't want to go there, but he was just so cool. He's such an icon,
Yeah.
so many films and music and characters with Ziggy and the Thin White Duke and all these other things he's done. It's just incredible body of work.
1000%.
Wow.
1000%. Anyone you've seen where you've been disappointed?
Yeah, but it's silly to say it. I was so disappointed. I don't remember their names. I mean,
Oh, that's bad.
you know, yeah. Uh, yeah, a couple bands. I remember this. Here we go. Obscure bands. In the '80s, I was dating this girl that wanted to go see Air Supply,
Woo!
and I walk out. They walk out, and the music starts, and the guy has a beer in his hand. The piano player has a beer in his hand, and I'm thinking, okay, this is all canned music because who's playing the piano, right?
Yeah,
And
no
that
shit.
that ruined the show for me right out of the gate. I could go see anybody live and they could be absolutely horrendous, but they're putting in the legwork and they're doing their thing and I respect that. But these guys, they've got canned music and they walk out on stage and I'm going, okay, whatever.
Alright,
So
so
yeah,
Steve says never see Air Supply.
never see Air Supply.
You're probably safe there anyway. I saw
No, not necessarily, because my wife loves their shit.
Yeah, I know. Well,
you'll see him at the fair.
I mean, the Air Supply and Barry White will both get you laid, right? Okay, if you put on Barry White or
Oh, that's classic. So for me, it was um actually Smashing Pumpkins at Lollapalooza.
you didn't like that show?
They sounded terrible.
Which venue? Where were you at? Where'd you see that?
Columbus. Yeah, down in Columbus,
Okay,
Ohio.
yeah.
It was a terrible like Beastie Boys were amazing. George Clinton, like I was never a huge George Clinton fan until like 30 seconds into his set. And I'm like, oh my God, I feel the funk, baby.
We
Like that
saw
was
that
amazing.
tour at the Cincinnati leg of that tour, and they were great.
Were they? Yeah,
Yeah.
they did not sound good for us. So
Billy and D'Arcy were fighting a lot though, so that may have come to a head,
Well,
who
what year
knows?
did you see him, Steve? What year did you
Huh?
see him, Steve?
Smashing Pumpkins?
Yeah.
Uh, whatever. I saw the first 5 Lollapaloozas, so what year was that? 93 or 4?
I want to say 4. Yeah, I think it was maybe
Maybe,
4.
yeah.
So I was looking at colleges. So I was down in Columbus. So
Yeah, it
it was
was
a
one
double
of the
hitter.
2. It was, what was it Siamese Dream?
Yeah.
Yeah, Siamese
Yeah.
Dream tour. Yeah.
Um,
So
like,
what year did you see him, Joe?
it was the same Lollapalooza, so it would have been the same year.
Okay.
Yeah,
It would've been the
same, just a different venue
Yeah.
on the same tour. I saw 'em, I've seen Smashing Pumpkins probably 5 or 6 times. I saw him on, the Melancholy and Infinite Sadness tour, Siamese Dream tour. Then, what was the Zero? What was that?
Oh, I don't know the name of
Yeah,
well,
that tour.
The reason why I ask is because I just recently heard something. It was an interview that Billy Corgan was having with another artist on his podcast, and it was about him being part of Lollapalooza, and Nirvana had to back out because Kurt was going through his stuff before
Yeah.
he ended it all. And so they became the headliner, and he was going through these motions of the 90s music genre, the X Gens kind of like being a slave to the grind of music and how they
Mhm.
denounced NTV and all this stuff. And he said, I got real uh, nasty and giving these long speeches and stuff because there was one part where at Lollapalooza where I was giving my speech about how I denounce MTV and I don't care about this and I don't care about records and movies, about the music. And he looked back and his drummer was pacing back and forth with a cigarette waiting for him to shut up. So I'm
Yeah,
wondering if
they were
that was one
talking
of
a lot.
those.
I'll tell you a group from that era that, you know, that I absolutely loved, um, was, Sonic Youth. I saw Sonic
Oh
Youth
yeah.
on every tour from Daydream Nation until they broke up.
Definitely underrated.
Very
Yeah,
underrated.
they had more of a cult following than what
Yeah,
they deserved.
they did,
Yeah.
but I loved Sonic Youth and still do.
Mm.
Jesus and Mary Chain, that was another one. I saw them every time they would come around.
Alice in Chains was a big one I saw that I loved. They were
It's
uh,
them. And
had a
I
lot that I
hate some of
missed.
this stuff.
The worst part is there's a lot that I missed.
Did you guys ever see
Oh
Jane's
yeah.
Addiction?
No,
I
tried to
did
when they were
not.
here, then get in a fight and they broke up yet
No, they
again.
were here. I saw
Well,
them here,
and then they broke up
Jacksonville.
right after.
Right after, yeah.
I found out the night of or the night day after that they were here. I was pissed. I always wanted to see Perry. Yeah.
Yeah, I saw them a lot, actually, several times I saw Jane's Addiction. Right before Nothing Shocking came out. They hadn't even released it yet, and I saw Jane's Addiction. I saw them every time they would come around. I got to see them.
Yeah, Perry Farrell is definitely I don't want to say savant, but he definitely has to be on the spectrum of something because he was out there in a genius way, but definitely also never fully there.
Well, let's get into
I
this.
heard him a little bit.
Why are they not in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame? I don't understand that. I mean, in the early 90s, Jane's Addiction were kind of, right at the top of right up
Remember
there
they
with their
headlined they
yeah, Jane's
headlined Lollapalooza. They were part of the
They
like the
created
main
it.
yeah, they
starters of it,
created
weren't
it.
they?
I don't understand, I mean, why they're not in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. They were just incredible live.
Have they been on the ballot?
I don't know. That's a good question, but they're not in, and
Checking
I
right
don't know
now.
why.
And he kept going. I mean, like even as odd as it was, Porno for Pyros
Yeah,
was like
Porno for Pyros was
that's
great.
an album you can put on and just chill to for
Oh, yeah,
great.
all day.
Okay. All right. Here's an education for all of us. So, according to the AI overview on Google, Jane's Addiction has been nominated for the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame twice for the
Okay.
2017 and the 2024 class, but has not yet been inducted. So they at
Sad.
least been nominated twice.
Well, that's good. It's a travesty they're not in, but
I
hopefully
agree.
It is,
they'll get in.
especially by the second time. That's an
Yeah,
odd one.
yeah, that is an odd one.
So I'm
Go
gonna
ahead.
go ahead, Mike.
Go ahead, Jeff. No, no, no. You go ahead. What you got?
I was gonna circle back to something that was talked about earlier that I think is kind of it was funny because it's a conversation Steve and I actually had recently. And when you talk about the prices of what it is for a concert and even how hard it is to get, shall we say, memorabilia. I remember the last couple concerts I've been to, the lines for t-shirts are astronomical to where you just give up. It's like you're gonna miss half the show if you wait in line for it.
Yeah.
And you know what it costs. Hell, it's $80 just in fees before you on top of a ticket nowadays, it seems.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And so I guess was it last weekend, 2 weekends? I don't know what day is it. It was a Halloween weekend. We were at a party and Steve was showing me actually pictures of some of his memorabilia, and it was a picture of a whole bunch of ticket stubs.
Oh, I've got a whole box of them.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I'm like, I mean, I'm drooling over the shows that he's seen, Rush, Rush. I'm like, you fucker. Okay, I get it. But the funny thing is, Mike, we're looking at these, and again, I remember, going to J.C. Penney's, waiting in line to
Oh,
get
God,
that
yeah.
printed ticket stub, right? To get it for your concert.
And the little old lady
Yep.
with the glasses hanging down on her
Yep.
nose, and she just take her time. It was at Sears and where I was from, but
But I mean, he's got ticket stubs to these amazing shows that would, if they were to retour right now, which some of them are still doing, it would
yep.
be hundreds of dollars a
Well,
seat.
yeah, and so to Joe's
You know,
point, a friend of mine asked, he calls up all excited, Rush is going to tour, and you want to go see Rush? I said, yeah, Brian, I'll go see Rush. Sure, whatever. Well, tickets, I think, were $400 or $500, and I'm like, let me rethink that. And he's like, "But it's Rush." And I said, "Yeah, and Neil is dead," and I like, no, no offense to Alex or Getty. I love them both, but like Neil was my boy. And, I get looking at the ticket stubs, they were right around $11 a show.
And was
Yeah.
the service fee like 50 cents
Yeah,
or
50
something?
cents, I think, or 30 cents. But I finally, I just had to tell him, I said, "Brian, listen," I said, I saw Rush on every tour from Permanent Waves until Time Machine. I said,
Oh,
I've seen them multiple times, Moving Pictures, Signals, all the great classic albums, for 11 or $12. Why do I want to trash that memory by paying 500 bucks to go to you know, I remember seeing, Oasis in Cincinnati. I think the tickets were $18 or something, and a friend
that was what, in
asked.
the 90s?
Yeah, this was, yeah, the '90s when s so we go to that, great show, the Gallagher brothers fighting as usual, but, I just can't justify going to Soldiers Field in Chicago and paying $700. I mean, for Christ's sake, I could spend a couple more $100 and go to Europe. It's
Just
just
find them there.
and find 'em there. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
just crazy.
Yeah, that's the crazy part, and I know we were also talking about the other day how the big key way back then was a T-shirt was like a status symbol because you couldn't buy them anywhere else. So it's the
Yeah.
only way to,
Yeah.
it was proof that you were at the show. Whereas now, like, again, I was telling this story to Steve how when I saw Nine Inch Nails and the line was so, I mean, it was literally a Disney line long to get shirt at every fucking marketing thing that they had out there to buy. And I gave up
Yeah.
on it. But as we were waiting, the opening band's playing, and we're waiting, and I pull up my phone and I'm like, where can I buy Nine Inch Nails Peel It Back tour shirts? And I shit you not, Mike, I ordered 2 of them while I'm sitting there before they started from Walmart, the exact shirt I wanted for half the price, and it was at my house in a week. I'm like, instead of standing in here, and it literally has the dates, everything. Identical shirt.
So it was in July. Now I gotta think, it was in July. I took my oldest son, we went to New York. They had CBGB Fest, and it was,
Oh, cool.
a lot of the bands that used to play CBGBs in New York. So Iggy Pop's playing, the Sex Pistols were supposed to play, Johnny Marr from the Smiths played, Marky Ramone was there, The Damned played, all the Melvins played, all these great bands. So I'm standing in a line like Joe's describing that's, a mile long, and Jack White played. So Jack comes on. I want to go see Jack again. And this woman walks up with an iPad and she says, "Well, you can order this thing right here and we'll mail it to you." I said, "Well, okay, well, how long is it to mail it to me?" And she said, "Oh, you'll have it in 2 weeks." I said, "Okay, cool. Well, how much is it?" It was $48. I thought, okay, whatever. So I get it. Well, needless to say, it's November and I still don't have my CBGB's Under the Bridge shirt, and I've emailed them now a couple of times. We'll be shipping them out soon, and this and this and this. And I'm going, yeah, okay, whatever. But I still don't have it. But I'm going to persist and get this thing. I
Oh,
want
yeah?
that.
Now the massive venues, like I'm wearing a Rockville shirt from 2 years ago where they do it at Daytona every year. And because I mean, there's a billion people there, but they have so many places to buy it and it's so spread out. It's probably the only place I've never had to worry about waiting in line because it was, it's so ridiculous and how big it is.
I've got on my
Like a Smith shirt.
my Smiths tour shirt from one of the back in the day.
So here's another one for you guys. Is there anyone that you had the opportunity to see but didn't, and you've kind of regretted it? Like any of those son of a bitches?
Are you guys gonna laugh at me if I
No.
is this
No.
confessional?
Oh, hold
Hell
on. Let me
no. Hell no.
off. Oh wait, not that kind of.
Well, it's funny you should say that as far as taking your pants off here, Joe, because the concert I was gonna say was Katy Perry. A friend of mine asked me if I wanted to go see Katy Perry, and I was in a mood that night for whatever reason, and I said, "Nah, I don't wanna go." And I didn't go, and I wish to God I would've, because I would have paid the price of admission just to see her stand there at this point. But anyway,
Probably puts on a hell of a show too.
yes, she
Yeah.
she
I gotta say that my wife went and saw. Now, this is the cool story. She went and saw Taylor Swift up in Cleveland, and at the time, that's before it was the start of the Swifties movement. But she was telling me about this concert, and how it came about was she was on Facebook one night with one of my cousins, one of my second cousins from my grandmother's side. And obviously, the gentleman had been drinking because he's like, I'll take you to Taylor Swift. Let's do a Taylor Swift. He's typing away and stuff. Well, like a week later, he gets back on Facebook and asks, does anybody know where I can sell up some Taylor Swift tickets? Because he doesn't remember why he bought Taylor Swift tickets. Well, it turns out he had asked my wife if she wanted to go to Taylor Swift, and he had a little bit of vibations going.
She remembered.
So he's like, you know what? You're right. Yeah. So we'll go to Taylor Swift. So they went to Taylor Swift, and it seemed like one of the coolest, like, interactive concerts. Am I a Swiftie? No. I hate the fact that I bob my head to some of the music, but at the same time, I respect it. But yeah, that right there. So your Katy Perry story is totally validated. Taylor Swift. I wish I could have been there just to have witnessed it. But yeah, I get you. I get you.
I think
Katy
part of that
Perry.
goes to what Steve said about, even when you've seen a bad band, I mean, respect the grind, right? I mean, if they're out there doing it, especially the older bands now, you're like, they're still
Well,
pushing.
okay, so that, this is an interesting question. Has there ever been a group or an artist come through that maybe you're not really that into them, but they're kind of iconic, and you're going to say, you know what, I'm going to go. I'm not really that into them, but I'm going to go just because they're an icon to put that on the list. You know what I mean? Some people won't
You
do that.
too.
Huh?
Mine is you too.
You saw them or didn't?
I would, if they would come through, even though I mean I enjoyed their music, but I'm not like, I see you too. But I definitely would probably venture into the I need to see these guys.
Hey, Mike,
Or they
he can't hit me with that glass that
You're
Peter's
safe. You're safe.
he can't hit me with that glass when so in 1981, Michael, U2 played Bogarts in Cincinnati, which is basically a bar, and I saw him in a bar.
That was Joshua Tree?
No,
Not even out
this
yet,
was
right?
this was
before
the
Joshua
first
Tree.
album I went.
Shit.
Yeah, this was 1981, and then I saw
Yeah.
them 3 times on Joshua Tree, Unforgettable Fire. The last time, talking about a disappointing show, we saw them in Pittsburgh in 2017 for the anniversary of Joshua Tree. Tickets were, I think, $1,500 or something stupid, but my wife and kids wanted to go, so we went. And they had a massive video screen. They played great. They sounded great, but every 30 minutes, and you could have set your watch. They said, "Okay, we're going to take a short break," and they showed what I would define as a 10-minute social justice warrior propaganda film.
Of course.
They did it 3 times during the show, and I'm thinking, for God's sake, people, I mean, you're killing me here. Paid all this money to see the music, so that was frustrating. They play great. They're great live, so.
Yeah, we saw
Yeah.
Elton John at Caesars, and that was an iconic one where
I remember that
yes,
the one piano.
Yeah. And when they actually modify the theater for the musician, for a stay, the sound is so epic. It was awesome. And it was one of the ones that were like, all right, we're here. Yeah, we'll go see him. We should check him out.
Oh, yeah.
But it was one of those, I only know a few of his songs. And then 2 hours in, you're like, shit, I've known everything he's played. I know way more than I ever thought I knew. It's like, sometimes you don't even realize how much you enjoy of a certain artist until, it really hits you in the face.
Did either one of you ever get to see Dylan, Bob Dylan?
Ooh,
Yeah, you did.
Yeah, great. That was one show I have to admit, I wanted to see Bob Dylan because he's an icon, obviously. Bob's getting older, and he was very incoherent, and there were people actually booing Bob, and I finally said to the guy in front of me, because it was so irritating, I said, "Listen, man," I said, "if you're not enjoying the show, I get it, but the guy's an icon. He's done more than anyone, so you have to give him his props. There's just a couple of people you can't boo. You can't boo the Beatles. You can't boo Dylan. You know what I mean? The Stones. I mean, there's just a few people that you have to give them props if they're having a good night or a bad.
How long ago was this that guy was acting like that? Because he's 84 years right
Oh,
now.
God, what year is that? Early 2000s. It's been a minute. Yeah, probably
So
20
he's in
years
his
ago.
70s.
Yeah,
70s.
that's it. He's an older. he's an older guy, but Bob is just he's just an incredible artist. I don't know how you could be
So that's kind of like
disrespectful to something like that.
you can't because Bob Dylan isn't just a musical icon. He's also a piece of history.
Yeah, he's a cultural icon.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, he is transcended just playing the guitar and a harmonica and singing some obscure lyrics to where he was actually part of a movement that is part of history, and he's glued to it forever.
Sure.
Yep.
So yeah, for anybody to boo him, I'm sorry, excuse my French, but you can fuck off.
Yeah, pretty much.
True.
Exactly.
I got one quick story that I'm gonna say because even though there's a good chance my dad will never listen to this, mostly because he just couldn't hear it with his hearing these days. But I will always jab him in the back with this story whenever I can from childhood. It was 90, I think it was 91. Guns N' Roses came out with the Use Your Illusion 1 and 2 albums. They toured that year with Metallica. All right. I won the both CDs before they were released on a radio. It was one of those, 10th caller type deals.
Yeah.
And son of a bitch, the I think it was a Buzzard in Cleveland or whatever, out there. I was like, I won it. And I'm a kid. I'm 15 years old or whatever. I forget, whatever. 14, 15. I couldn't drive. I knew that, right? Did not have a license or a car when I won these. And it was, this was like the greatest high I'd ever had in my life. So not only did I win the 2 CDs, I won tickets to the show in Cleveland. So I've got all this, and so I had to convince my parents that, either let me to drive and drop off me and a friend or let me go with somebody, whatever, and all that. And they were finally like, fine, this is this is like your mecca between these 2 bands at their heyday, right? And then if anyone knows how much of a stickler my father was back in the day, of course, he never did this kind of shit to any of my siblings that were much
Nope.
younger than me. But it was right around the time we were having finals. It might have been actually like 8th grade or 9th grade. And I was supposed to be in my room, quote unquote, these damn Depression era people love them, studying 8 billion hours for my finals that were coming up. And I fell asleep in my room. My dad walks in, catches me sleeping, and says something along the lines of, "You ain't going to that fucking concert because you're not taking this serious enough," and all that. And of course, after that concert, that tour, they fucking broke up. They got the CDs. And I shit you not only the worst part of all this, besides seeing people the next day with the concert t-shirts, like we were just talking about, Steve, not only that, they made me, because again, these are super old school people. They made me call the radio station back and tell them to give the tickets to somebody else.
Oh no!
So I didn't even get to have the fucking the stubs to say that I won them. I know. I mean, I was able to go and pick up the CDs, and I got the CDs like 2 weeks before they were released, that was great and epic in itself, right? And then they break up, so all this like crushed my heart. Had I known someone who could drive, I probably would have snuck out and gone to the damn show, and I remember I've told it to him over the years. I'm like, that was the last time the whole band was together. Now it's just 2/3 of the band. Yeah. And look, I didn't fuck up my whole, the rest of my life and all that. And, just like they used to think that we were going to ruin our lives playing video games, and we turned out
Well,
just fine.
Joe, you only got a B+ on that final, so I don't know. You kind of fucked up.
I probably did bad on it anyway, which is the best part, right?
Wow.
Could you and I know, probably 20 years ago, I brought this story up one time and he was like, yeah, I feel bad. I'm sorry. I shouldn't have done that.
So was that the only ticket you ever won on the radio?
That was the only one I ever won on the radio too. But it was like, that was when you're listening to it and you're like, dude, there's no I don't know if you even have redial type of, it was so, and you hear yourself in the radio, you're like, oh my God, this is the coolest thing ever.
This was in the mid 90s and cell phones were not exactly common, right? So I'm driving down the highway, caller 9, and you can win tickets to see Iggy Pop. So I call, and the guy says, congratulations, you're caller 9. And the phone died, right? So I'm in a convertible. I throw the phone. Thank God it bounces off of the windshield and lands in the car. So the phone rings. And I'm in a foul mood, because so I answered and I'm like, what? I don't even know who it is. And the guy says, hey, this is so-and-so at the radio. He said, you were caller 9 and the phone dropped. And I was thinking, thank you, sweet Lord Jesus, that
Wow.
this guy called me back.
He star 69'd you.
Yeah, he
I was
Alright.
gonna say,
called me back, and I got to see the show, and it was the Skull Ring album. He had not released it yet, but there were about 150 people in this room, and Iggy walks out, and he said, "Hey, man, I'm getting ready to do this new album, and we have, 18 songs or whatever. We could only put so many on the album, 9 or whatever it was." And he said, "So we're gonna play everything, and if you're into it, let me know. And if you're not, we'll scratch it, and won't waste your time or ours. Is that cool?" And we're all like, "Yeah, okay." So he goes through the whole thing, and he said, "Well, thanks. You were a great crowd." He said, "Do you guys have to be anywhere?" And we're all hollering, and he says, "Hey, man, I used to be in this band called the Stooges," and everybody's hollering. He says, "So you guys want to hear some Stooges stuff?" And we're like, "Yeah." So he plays another hour and a half of just straight
oh, wow.
everything the Stooges ever did. That was pretty cool. So to be in just that intimate setting with him doing that, that was won that on the radio. That was fun.
That's awesome.
So, Steve, I want to sidestep real quick. Yeah, Joe had mentioned your avid guitar collection. What is
Yeah.
your most beloved guitar, and what is your most beloved manufacturer of guitar?
So I have a lot of really, really, really rare stuff. I have one of the original 64 Fender Marauder prototypes that were never released to the public. Yes, they made them. They made 16. I have one of those. I've got a 58 Gretsch White Penguin. I think they made a dozen. I've got a 60 Les Paul Burst. I have 70 some high-end vintage guitars. My favorite of the bunch, if the house is on fire and I can grab one, is probably my 57 Les Paul Gold Top. It's just a magical guitar. The thing plays like butter. It sounds like an angel. It's not the rarest, it's not the most expensive, but it's just a great guitar. I just love that guitar. So
But that's the one you're like, if I'm buried with one guitar, this is the one.
yeah, the 57 Les Paul, yeah, the gold top, great guitar. The Dwayne Allman guitar, it's what Dwayne played, just incredible guitar.
Thank you for sharing. That's cool.
All right. Well, Mike, unless you have another great story you want to add in, I have a feeling we could, if we didn't have stuff to do in the morning, we could keep drinking and tell stories forever.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, there's so many out there. I wish I had some as epic as Steve's. It's
Well,
impressive the band you've been able to see, and that is part of the reason I wanted to have you on tonight because I knew that you have.
Can I tell you one last proud dad story? Can I tell you this,
hell
Mike?
yeah.
So there's a little pub in Cincinnati called Murphy's Pub, right? And there are 6 posters hanging on the wall of bands that have sold out the place where they literally had to lock the doors so the fire marshal didn't shut them down. 6. And this club has been there for God, at least since the 80s, probably before then. So the first band ever to do it was Nirvana. Tickets were $3. I was at that show. Uh, Kurt's gear was just trashed where he had knocked it over 5,000 times. And I'm sitting there staring at it and it's just beat to hell. And I said, "Is that your rig?" And he said, "Yeah." And I said, "Do you ever blow that?" And he goes, "What's that supposed to mean?" And it was just so tore up that I thought, how is he not blowing these speakers? Like they're just beat to shit. And I said, "Oh, I didn't mean anything derogatory by it." I said, "I play guitar too, and it's a lot of power to go through these speakers and they're not really matched and blah blah blah." And he said, "Yeah, there's enough there, it disperses the sound." So I said, "Well, what's your name?" And he goes, "Oh, Kurt Cobain." And I said, "Hey, I'm Steve, and nice to meet you." And I asked him, "Where are you guys from?" They weren't popular yet. They were
No.
$3 in a bar, right? So, they hadn't broke yet. This was, I don't remember what year, maybe 9 maybe, I don't know. But, bought Kurt a beer and just bullshitted about music gear, basically. But anyway, what I was gonna tell you, so that was the first band to do it. The last band to do it was a Cincinnati band called Tasteful, and my oldest son, Franklin, is the guitar player in Tasteful. So they were the last band to do it, and so the 6 posters are on the wall in the bar. The first is Nirvana, and the last is my son's band. And he walks out on stage and he says, "Hey, we're really honored to be on the wall, of the 6 bands that have ever sold the place out." And he said, "My dad was at the show," and he said, "So we'd like to start with a Nirvana song. This one's for Kurt." And they started with Nirvana. They opened with a cover of a Nirvana song. But I just was really proud of that, that I was at that first show they did, and then the last one happened to be my son's band. I thought that's pretty cool.
I'm gonna add in a caveat to all of this.
This again.
Exactly.
So Joe, having Steve on, as we know, time will go on. Stories will fade. We'll all pass away. But this, knowing your experiences along with which we find kind of mundane compared to yours, but someday I know that, if our children get into our music, they'll be like, "Are you serious? You saw Rage? Oh my God!" And like,
Oh,
yeah,
yeah,
but I talked to a guy that saw Zeppelin, talked to Kurt, and I'm like, "No way!" So that's what's important
and
about things like this.
I'm
It's
not
the
even saying
legacy.
this to be funny. It's because I'm old. I mean, I'm really that's it. It's like you just said. Your kids will look back and say, "You got to see Rage," or "They got to see Taylor Swift," or you know what I mean? It's
Yeah.
music changes. It's constantly evolving, and at the time, they were just shows. They were just shows. I don't mean to minimize them. They were all incredible artists, but at the time they were just concerts. We didn't think anything about it. It was entertainment, and
Oh yeah.
I've always loved music. I always will. It's just part of my life. I've just always enjoyed it. So
Well, it's something that
Other than that,
brings people.
Steve, it was great to see you. Joe, go ahead and roll us out.
So, I mean, that's, literally as Stephen just said, music brings us all together. I mean, the one beauty about concerts, right, is you can see people that would probably not talk to each other outside of that venue or want to talk to each other. There's no politics.
uh,
Unless you go to a Pearl Jam show and, I love Pearl Jam, but Eddie Vedder needs to not talk politics.
or you too. They need to stop.
Yeah, but when you're there, you're enjoying the music, you're in the moment, it's wonderful. It's, the outside world in theory doesn't exist. You're happy, you're loving it, and it's great.
It's how
And
Disney World used to be.
right? It's how the whole world used to be that way, but yeah, even Disney used to have their own space.
Bravo.
Also, the house mouse still
Yeah.
loves you. It still loves you and your money, especially your money. But
Oh yeah.
it's eclectic. It's gonna go on forever. Like you said, the stories just continue to tell themselves, which is the beauty of all of it. And Steve, thank you very much for joining us
Thanks for
tonight.
having me, guys. It was a lot of fun.
We enjoyed it. There was and Mike, there's something else I want to bring Steve back for one day, but not today.
Not today.
Not
Happy day.
today.
Happy day.
Yeah, I know. It'll be a more serious conversation.
Happy day.
And maybe one of these days we'll just bring him back to talk more bands and music because
This was
fuck
cool.
it, music. Why not?
Right. Exactly.
It's
Right.
beautiful.
Exactly.
It's fun. Mike, thank you for joining us again. We will talk again in a few days. Don't
All right,
freeze.
brothers.
I hope it doesn't snow for you already. And it sure as shit better
Oh, I
not snow
love the
for you.
cold. I love the cold. Bring it on.
Yeah. Keep it up there. We'll continue to get some.
away, my Ohio juju. All right, love you guys. Have a good, safe night. We'll see you next week.
All right, thank you, everyone. And hey, if you get a chance, check out Tasteful. I'll put a link to the band's website out there when we post everything.
There you go.